You know what's interesting is I was picturing Liver King while you were talking, and a lot of people, a lot of young men.
Who doesn't? Like that's what I picture all the time. That's all I picture.
Isn't everybody just picturing a Liver King right now? Welcome to In Moderation,
the show where we give you a moderate dose of info, sarcasm, and we already know we're not approved.
Welcome back to In Moderation, where we just spent 13 minutes getting all of the political ranting out of the way so that you guys don't have to hear it, hopefully.
Wait,
I mean, you never know.
There's political stuff going on? What? I had no idea. I just have my dog cookie here. It's a little cookie for a dog. Yeah.
Are you eating dog cookies?
No comment. You'll see in a video. Anyway, how you doing, Rob?
You've already admitted to eating grass, so nobody's going to be surprised.
I don't remember that, but that sounds like me. How are you doing?
Pretty good. I have a lead up into this guest for this episode, a little backstory to it for once. So everybody, well, a lot of people are familiar with the Jeff Nippard, Mike Von Wick, Big Mike fight that went on. But for those of you who don't know who those people are, they are both really big Canadian creators. Big Mike is your very pro-science, aggressive steroid user. And Jeff Nippard is your very into science. He's a nice guy. I recommend going to look his stuff if you haven't. He's the type of person we would have on this podcast if we ever develop a connection with him. But the two of them, Mike made a video calling out science-based lifters. It was basically a diss track against science-based lifters.
It was the fitness version of a diss track. Yeah, exactly.
And Jeff Nippard made a response to that. It was a very polite response saying, this is why I listen to science and why I'm a science-based lifter.
It was so mild. Like, if you haven't seen it, he was just like, yeah, this is the achievements I've got. This is what I've done. And this is why I listen to science. Like, it was, there was not a single bad word in there.
And after that happened, the two of them bumped into each other in a gym in Toronto, where Big Mike decided to throat punch Jeff as a response to Jeff's video. And it was crazy because you would think, I would hope that most of our listeners are like, that is a dick move. But the sheer amount of people that actually were defending Big Mike was insane. And so a little bit after that, I got introduced to our guest Sierra through a mutual friend, Ashley. And it was kind of funny because Ashley was telling me about it. Apparently, she said that you're going to meet a fitness creator, but don't worry, he's a good one. Yes, she had to assure you.
Yeah.
Because apparently Sierra is on the other side of the gym from me and Liam. We don't get to see much of the misogyny. Apparently Sierra here as well. I'll let you introduce yourself at this point.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
Yeah, so I've been a trainer now for over 8 years. I did 5 in person, and then I transitioned more to online training. And so I started putting out fitness content, and I got really involved with a group of people from Prescript, which they train trainers how to be trainers. Basically, they have continuing education, and they were based out of Pure Muscle. And Pure Muscle is where Jeff and Mike had their altercation. Okay. So that was kind of my introduction to like the fitness scene and the fitness influencers. And basically then as I was posting fitness content, I got in touch with HD Muscle. I met a whole bunch of their photographers, like their influencers. We connected over social media. And I actually became an affiliate with HD Muscle, which Big Mike was an affiliate with HD Muscle as well. So that was kind of the group of people I was around and like introduced to in the fitness industry. And then you start hearing like there is rumors and like the rumor mill starts going. And that whole like environment and group of men that I happened to be introduced to in the fitness industry was so toxic. And then I was posting on TikTok and I was just getting inundated with a ton of like red pill men on my in my comment sections. So I was like, okay, this is fitness. Like it's a bunch of misogynists who hate women, but want to see women in really tight clothing. And then men who comment about hating seeing women in tight clothing, but then make fun of fat women. So I was like, I just need to take a step back from fitness. So I took a step back from fitness and started talking more like the misogyny route and kind of going down that route because I was attracting the red pill men anyways. So I'm like, I might as well address this. And
can you describe that a little bit? The red pill, like, what that is, just for people who don't know.
Yeah. So red pill is just like there's a whole podcast subcategory of men who really hate women, but really want to sleep with women. So the red pill sphere is a bunch of guys. This is my description. A bunch of men just sitting in a circle jerking each other about how much they hate women and how women won't sleep with them. But then their approach to dating women is discussing how much they fucking hate women and then being surprised that no women want to be with them.
Is that sort of like the Andrew Tate sort of thing? Is that like that?
Andrew Tate was like the first one. And then there was Sneeko was another one. Then
I've
there's
heard of them,
Fresh and Fit, where they're like
who came up with alpha camps.
Yeah,
and we have talked about that. Yeah,
they're like number one advice to incel men, so involuntarily celibate men and men who can't get women. Their first advice is to go to the gym. So that's why there's been this like uptick in misogyny in the fitness sphere because it's all just a bunch of men who can't get women, thinking that if they go to the gym, they're going to get women. And then when it's only men that they're hanging out with, they're upset that nobody wants to be with them.
Right. And that's the perfect scenario because then they're around all the other men and you can form the nice biggest of circle jerks. There. You can have the biggest circle. You can have a whole gym jerk. You can have a gym jerk. Don't choke too much, Sarah. I mean, there's already a bunch of pre-workout on the floor. All I'm saying, all right, I'm not going to keep going. That's fine. Whatever. But
save that for the OnlyFans.
It makes it does make sense. Like, especially when you're like younger, like I'll speak as just like a male, when you're in like your teenage years, you think like, oh, I get jacked, I get women, right? That's what you are kind of taught in a way.
Very steered into.
Right. You kind of believe that because of just, we'll just say outside influence. Right. So like, I guess it does kind of make sense. That's what, if you were trying to lure other men into this and get them to, buy your like program or something, but like first thing, bro, what you need to do, bro, you need to hit the gym. You need to train those lats and get those triceps going, whatever it is. But I'm just kind of like, I'm just kind of curious about like your transition. So like what kind of stuff were you getting in your comment section from these like red pill men?
Yeah. So I made one video that kind of like started it off as I said that BMI is not an accurate predictor of health. And I was like, because I'm 175 pounds, which is like on the heavier side going into like almost like it's the heavyweight, like unhealthy category. And I was like, but look at my body type. And I was like, I go to the gym, I have muscle. And then the men were just like so pissed off. And they got more pissed off because I was like, BMI was created. It's inherently like racist and misogynistic because they did not, in the sample study that they used to create BMI, it was only white men. So all of the numbers are based off of white men. So I'm like, if you have a woman who say 5'10", we're both 5'10", right? But one of us has extremely large chest. That fat is sitting in a different spot. So it's going to be a different indicator of health than somebody who has a small chest and holds all that weight around their stomach.
Yeah, because we know the visceral fat, the fat you carry around your abdomen, that is less, or so it's more harmful to your health in general than if you carry it elsewhere.
Yeah. So overall, that was just my point. And then it just kind of continued to spiral. And then it got to the point where I ended up on the Scottish Sun and the US Sun. They made an article about it because they were like, trolls say that I'm like unattractive, but look at my physique, right? And it just got to the point where like I couldn't post anything without those same men like going into that comment section. And like I would be doing like a dumbbell row with 75 pounds. I'm proud of it. And then they'd be like, oh, but look at your stomach. And I'm like, I couldn't post anything without it turning into how I was failing somehow. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, what's the metric? Like where, like what is enough in like as a woman to be like competent and good at the gym and then like enough to talk about these things without being degraded for my body. And it just became this loop.
Is that it kind of feels like, when you're like a kid and you like a girl, so you like pull her hair because you're like 8 years old and you don't know what the fuck to do. It feels like they just never grew out of that. Is anyone else feel like that's
negging.
what it is?
They didn't develop their frontal lobe.
Yeah. So negging. I fell into like a whole thing for a little while. I was like, negging is fascinating, where it's like, okay, so all right, here's a good example. Like if I go up to a girl and I'm like, wow, your eyes are so beautiful. Are those color contacts? That would be a great example, because it's like you're giving them a compliment, but you're saying like, oh, but you're not real though. Like, I don't think you're actually real. So you give them kind of a compliment, but also a slight insult at the same time. And it's just, I've always found negging just fascinating.
Also known as a backhanded compliment.
It's basically a backhanded compliment is what it is, but you do it in terms of like trying to get women. And that's how you're going to start a relationship, is off that. That's just, I find it fascinating. I find it very fascinating.
That's kind of Red Pill's thing though. Like negging women is like their go-to, is like make fun of women and make them feel insecure. And then they're going to seek your validation.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Smart in a terrible sort of way.
It's just like kind of like it's ingrained itself in the culture when it comes to gym culture, which is why when Ashley was like, oh, there's going to be like a fitness influencer here, like a guy. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. Like, what am I walking into? And then she's like, no, he's fine. And I was like, is he though?
Yeah.
Like, I'm
just wondering, what else do you think brings like that sort of men into the gym culture? Is it just like you mentioned? That's a great the example you gave earlier, that like, hey, guys, you need to get to the gym to get jacked, to get women. Is there any? Do you think there's like another aspect to it? The why the gym,
another funnel?
Yeah, like I feel like there's more funnels. Exactly.
I think anger, like a place to put anger and frustration. But I think what's hard is like as a society, we measure a man's success by his financial capabilities and also his ability to get women. So if you can't get money, another way to show that you're successful is to get women.
And if you can't get those, either get a fancy car or a jacked up truck.
Yeah, but that's also like a marker of money.
Right, that's money. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you have no money, you're like, okay, me have no money. Me need success. Me work out. Me get jacked. Me get women. Like that's basically just the path they take.
But like those things have been largely pushed on men from other men. Because
of course,
that's men's version of like successful is those things. So that's why it fails to get people women.
Oh yeah, you'd be surprised. Like, women. There's got to be women that really care about like a guy's body, right? Like, there's billions of people, yada yada yada. But like in general, they don't care nearly as much as other dudes do. Like any dude, like you listen to like fitness influencers, when they get like quote unquote jacked, they get so much more attention from other dudes than they do women. When we're like, oh, that's neat, that's like cool, but like they just don't care nearly as much as they think. It's yeah.
But like, which is why like the incels then continue to fail,
right?
Because they're like being told how to impress other men.
The only way to like really succeed then is to get like so successful off of other men liking you that you get the money and then you get the women. Like so you just pull a full on Andrew Tate and then you sell programs to, was it Hustleversity? I think he called it Hustleversity, which is like my favorite like non-word
something
ever.
Like that. Yeah.
I think it was Hustle University. I think they just combined it to like Hustleversity, and I was like, I love this so much.
But wasn't a lot of that how to traffic women too? Like,
I don't know. Probably, I don't know like all that went into it, but like there's a lot of sketchy shit. But like, just
I saw the name and I was like, no.
Yeah, it's all just like, let me make money off of other, off of saying I'm successful instead of actually like really being successful, like that route.
And I think part of it too, like the reason he was so successful is part of his course had you reposting his content on platforms.
Yes.
So it just spread faster.
Right. Yeah. Very
but
smart.
Even like Sneeko, he is another one, and he talks poorly about women all the time. And he was in an airport and a group of boys came up to him and they like swarmed him. They're like, oh my God, can we get your autograph? We love you. And like, fuck women. And he was like, what? And they're like, yeah, fuck women. And they're like 12 to 15 years old. And he's like, what? No, we don't say that. Like, what are you doing? And it was like, you could see the shock on his face that like what he is saying is actually like sticking in people's heads. Like, I think that it's a grift, right? Majority of these men, because they get access to women, they're sleeping with women, and what they're selling is a grift. And this is like getting into the younger guys' heads, the like young boys' heads, and then it's ruining their thought process and like how they view women. And he doesn't, like, a lot of these people don't understand how much this is permeating into like relationships with young boys and young girls. And then there's young girls who are going to school and getting told your body, my choice by these teenage boys. I was just thinking that, yeah.
Right.
And like, and we sit back and like part of me kind of getting into talking about those things and misogyny was also like, I have a son. And I was like, the teachers were complaining about how much they were hearing red pill ideology in their classroom. And they're like, how do we address this? And it's like, well, there has to be an antithesis to this conversation. Because if we're only allowing like those types of men to create content around what it means to be a man, that's the only messaging they're getting from other men. And so they think that's how they have to go out into society. And then it affects young boys as well as young girls. And then we see it just the cycle repeating itself.
That's a tough one because, go ahead.
I've mentioned this before, one of the best messages I get, like I love getting messages about how people have lost weight and stuff like that. But one of the ones that like really make me proud are when I have young men that message me, thanking me for being a role model that actually is saying that they can do things like show real emotion and do their hair however they want, or all these things.
Yeah, because the extreme views are always right. We always talk about it in terms of like nutrition, right? Like, you know, someone yelling at you with their shirt off, talking about like lectins and beans, whatever the fuck it is, you know, some nonsense. But it absolutely works in this area as well, right? Because like these messages are just like wild and crazy, and they're going to get a lot of attention and a lot of views. So like you can't stop that. Like we're in 21st century, right? Social media is everywhere. There's no way we're like, well, it's just ban. No, there's nothing you do there. So how do you combat it is the question. And so do you think that's the best way to fight it, is just have a counter, like a good counter message? What is that message? What do you think? Here, let me ask you. I'll leave it to
the floor is yours.
The floor is yours.
I think so. Like there's a content creator I really like that's based out of the UK. His name's Ex-Patriarch, and he talks about like patriarchal conditioning and how we're conditioning men to not have conversations. Like there's a lot of men who don't know how to open up to other men. There's a lot of men who don't, like their emotional lives are not rich. They're limited to themselves, and they're like an island existing with all these other islands of men existing. They don't, if something happens in their life, they don't have men that they can reach out to. And I think that the fitness community can be a really good environment for fostering community with other men if they're able to get over the hurdle of the things they've been told since they were kids about like not crying, not showing emotion, and just internalizing everything. But this came to a head with Mike and Jeff, because Jeff is somebody who's like very communicative. He shares information, he shares ideas. And then you have Big Mike, who's like that stereotypical misogynist, like fuck bitches, get money. He was Drake's bodyguard. He just embodies that. And you saw the like clashing of the two. Like Jeff is like words. Mike is, I'm going to throat punch you unprovoked in the gym because my emotions are so big I can't handle them, but I'm a big manly man. And so I think that's where we see those things like clashing in the gym. It's like the more open, honest, communicative man versus the stoic, I can't say that you hurt my feelings, so I'm just going to throat punch you.
Right. Because that's their only avenue at that point, right? Because you've been taught the emotions okay to show are anger. And maybe just anger. Maybe just anger. Just leave it at that.
Yep.
It's anger. And it's like anytime they have an emotion outside of anger, it always funnels into anger because they don't know what to say. It's like when you have a toddler and they're throwing things or hitting things because they're just frustrated and they can't use their words to explain themselves. He can't do that. So instead he throat punches somebody And then all of the other men that feel the same way that can't use their words are like, yeah, Big Mike.
That's what I was just about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. Some people were saying that, if you're going to talk big, you need to back your words up. And it's like the words were backing up the words. Like you can use your words to back things up.
Well, and imagine thinking you're like less emotional because you throat punch someone over a TikTok.
Right.
Like you're less emotional because you got such big emotions. You had to throat punch another person because of a TikTok, a little video. And this is where the bring back bullying. Bring back, like, you can't handle a TikTok.
Before we started the podcast, we were talking about bully the bullies. Like, that's, you kind of have to just be like, listen, bro, like you assaulted someone because they did. And again, I just want to make it like Jeff was so just very like, he didn't say a single bad word about Mike in that video at all. Just stated the facts. Here's what I've done. Here's why I believe in this. And that's it. And like, I think anyone watched that was like, oh, like I watched that video. The comments are like, this is a very like kind response. Like, this is a very well thought out, a good response. And he just got so mad. He had to assault him. It's wild. Yeah, it's absolutely
assault him
wild.
And the cameraman too. Let's not forget that.
And he hit him twice too. Like, he hit him, got back up, hit him again. Like, I was like, that is, and yeah, you're right. Like, that's when people backed him up because they saw that and they're just there's just this violent,
they want to circle jerk anger. They want to do. They just want to sit there and be like, yeah, don't say anything to me. And you're like, learn how to control yourself, because 4-year-olds learn that.
No, but for them, it's just that it's violence. That is the way, anger and violence. And yeah, I just don't know how. I think it's nice, like, seeing, like, I think one like positive thing is sometimes you'll see like celebrities, and like a celebrity males, so like your typical like The Rock or something like that, who will open up a little bit more with his daughter and sing and do these certain things. I'm like, oh, that's nice. At least that's like something else, like showing that you have emotions. But like, I don't know exactly how to like fight this on a broader scale. It's such a tough one. It's a tough one to fight.
I think making fun of them, like, to some degree, like publicly shaming people who say and do stupid things needs to come back to some degree, because they do it to us. You say something they don't like, and they'll just, again, circle jerk, hate each other, like hate everything. And it's like, so we have to sit here, we have to mince words, we have to be careful about what we say because they might have a tantrum like a 4-year-old. Or we can just look at them and be like, you behave like a 4-year-old. Like, are you going to hit me because you're 4 years old? Like, they're children. And like, shame works great for those people because it's the only way that they know how to communicate. That's how they communicate with us. They shame, they like make fun of, and they hit.
That is a fair point, that you have to communicate with somebody in a way that they know how to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
You You communicate with them that way, though, and then how do you make them learn the other ways? Do you just have a bunch of good role models, and hopefully they can see those? Like, we were talking about before.
It depends on the age bracket you're discussing.
Okay.
I think that comes down to, like, do we get to a point where in the gym we shame people who act like Big Mike and we ostracize them and make them not part of the gym community, and they get put on their little island so that the people coming up don't think that that's how you behave in the gym?
Right. So do we just say, like, oh, Big Mike lost, there's nothing we can do about that, so we're just going to publicly shame him and humiliate him so hopefully more people don't become this?
Yeah, and call him a loser. Like, like, he's not part of the community. That's what they do. Like, when you think of a lot of the ways that society is, like, things are going right now, that's how they've kind of won in other areas, is just being like, you're not one of us.
Right.
There's a woman who's part of the red pill sphere. Pearl is her name. Pearl Davis. And I made a video, and she's a redhead. And I said that I would never sit down and have a debate with Pearl because I think that she's stupid. And people are like, why would you say that? And why would you be so mean? And I was like, because why am I going to sit down and have a civil conversation with someone that thinks that women deserve less rights, that we're not as smart, we should be in the kitchen having babies? why am I going to sit and have a logical conversation? I'm going to tell her to get in the fucking kitchen and make me a sandwich because that's how she wants all of us to be treated. So I'm just going to return the sentiment, and she's not going to get a conversation. She's going to get a, does the carpet match the drapes? Because that's how she views all of us should be talked to. So I don't think that having these, like, the problem is we have these logical, theoretical conversations and we bring facts and all these things. And like you said, they don't see it. So bring the type of conversation they understand. Shame, harass, make fun of, and ostracize.
Yeah, I was just say ostracize them so much so that if you go into that group, you know you're just gonna get it so hard it's not worth it.
Well, it's the same like girls dating now. If somebody listens to Andrew Tate, they know. Run. Like, did you not see that map?
That's a big red flag. That's like the biggest red flag.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Yeah. It's a tough one.
There was a guy who came on TikTok and he was talking about how now he's going to have to hide who he voted for, because he knows that women aren't going to want to date him. And you're like, that's the way, like, they're going to try and hide, but they always have tells. But that's the way it should be. They should be ashamed. That's my opinion.
It's interesting.
They try and shame women out of the gym.
I'm just sitting over here. I'm kind of just torn with this idea of just like, you know, how to reach, you know, I think the best bet, yes, is to reach the younger generation and just try and teach them that, you know, it is okay to show other emotions. Like,
give up on the people that have already sunk into it and try to take the younger and move them aside.
Yeah, I think like the older generation that's already in it, it's going to be tough. Like you can try, but like, boy, it's a lot. It's going to be a lot harder. Like, okay, so I remember when I was younger, I was like, I've like maybe not even 20 years old. A friend of mine at work, he died from like a staph infection. He was only like in his 30s. He was very young. It was very sad. And I went to his funeral and like and I was doing okay up until that point. And then they had all the pictures and everyone was there and talking about him. And I just started like bawling, crying, like not like a fun cry, like a full on cry. Right. And like his parents were like saying hi to people and handshaking and saying, you know, all that stuff. And I remember going up to him and I shook his hand and he looked straight at me and he said, stop crying, be a man. Or he said, man up, I think is what he said. He said, man up. And I was like, and I left there thinking like, his son just died like at like 30 and he couldn't cry at it. He couldn't show any emotions. And he was telling other people who were crying at his son's funeral to not cry. And I've thought about that since. I'm like, that's, you know, really interesting. If it's not okay to cry at your own son's funeral, then I guess it's never okay. And like, that's a tough like life to live where you can't show emotions at all. So then, yeah, like you were saying, it just kind of goes into anger, I guess, because where else is it gonna go? So like that's the older generation. They're just kind of, that's the way they've been brought up. So I think maybe just focusing on like the younger generation. Maybe that's why TikTok can be
the ostracize the people, because then push them out on their island and take the younger generation. Be like, look, you don't want to go over on that island. Come over here.
Yeah, I think, yeah, just like TikTok is generally a younger crowd, right? Try and reach them and teach them, you know, that you don't have to be a hateful dick who circle jerks. Like, you don't have to do that. You can show emotions and it's fine. And like probably better because then you don't just have all that pent up emotion. And also maybe don't take tons of exogenous hormones. Because like steroids might also make that a little bit worse. That's all. All I'm saying is if you're taking like 1,000 milligrams of test, you know, like those anger emotions might get you a little bit easier.
Just a little bit.
Or just show them what happens to men that end up like Big Mike.
Just make an example, as you say. Make an example of this.
Yeah.
So what advice would you have for the younger generation of men? We've got a lot of female listeners for our podcast, and they're all like nodding along with you. But for especially the younger men who are growing up and starting to get into this divide, what would your advice be to them?
Find people who make you feel good. I've had men in my comments talking about how they don't talk about their issues because the men around them are their friends. Like, for example, they wouldn't talk about their relationship issues with their friends because their friends might try and steal their girlfriend. And I was like, that doesn't sound like a friend.
That's not a friend.
Yeah. So I think for younger men, it becomes important to understand when people around you are safe and what type of advice you're getting from the content you're consuming, and considering the life of the men that you're consuming, like the content you're consuming. Does their life look rich and fulfilling outside of the gym or what they have financially? Because there's so many men nowadays that are dying alone in care homes without their kids around them, without their wives around them, because they've created that island themselves and they've been terrible to everyone around them. And near the end of their life, they're alone. So the reality comes down to is like, does your role model or the men you're looking up to have the type of life in like outside of financial success that you would want to emulate in your own? Do they have partnerships that make you want, like, that you would want to have with a woman? Do they talk positively about their friends and family and the women that they're around? Because I find a lot of the times when you look at the messaging that a lot of these red pill podcast people have, or when they're talking about women, they're dehumanizing, they're objectifying. So how those men talk about women is a good indication of their ability to have empathy. There's so many men nowadays that don't have access to empathy because they can't feel anything but anger. So they can't empathize with other people. So empathy is just like a muscle. You have to train it. You have to work on it. And if you're not getting that through friendships, if you can't have those conversations with your friends, you're never going to be able to develop your EQ, which is your emotional intelligence and your ability to relate to other people. That would be my advice.
What's interesting is I was picturing Liver King while you were talking. And a lot of people, young men.
Who doesn't? Like, that's what I picture all the time. That's all I picture.
Isn't everybody just picturing Liver King right now?
Yeah.
Brian Johnson is just on everyone's minds constantly.
But a lot of young men watch his stuff and they look at him and they're like, well, look at this guy. He's big, he's swole, he's powerful, he's rich, everything, all the Andrew Tate stuff, all the red pill stuff. But if you actually watch the videos and look at the things going on around him, he doesn't really interact with other people. If you watch his wife in the videos, his wife almost never talks. I don't think I've ever seen her talk. There might be a couple of videos. And it's almost like she's on a leash. Instead of having a partner that's there and celebrating this and doing the stuff with you, she's in the background. That's not what I would
Sometimes
want
she's right next to him and she says things like, women are built to be women and men are built to be men. Primal. Oh, yeah. Let's go. That sort of thing.
Basically
that's mostly what I see. Yeah, it's full on script. And it worked very well until it didn't. But like, whatever. He made a lot of money before it didn't. Before it went poorly.
But like, the point is, that's not how I would want to portray my relationship in a video. Like, if I'm with somebody who wants to be in my videos, I don't want them just standing back there or saying some simple stuff. I want them to actually be part of it and enjoy something and have fun with me.
Yeah. Well, I consider like mentors. Like, I was on a date with a guy and he has a mentor. He wants to be like high up business. He's doing he's successful financially right now, but he really wants a family and children. And his advisor told him to wait until he's a lot older and do all these things. And I was like, okay, does your advisor have the life you would want in his family? And he goes, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, you're taking advice from a guy. Would you want his life? If you don't want his life, why are you taking advice from him? You want a family, you want kids, you want to be successful in business, but you can't have, even as a man, you can't have both. You can't have a super strong financial life and be a CEO who's traveling around the world internationally and never seeing his kids. So you have to learn what to prioritize. And it's the same with women. Like, maybe back in the day, 1950s, where you were a home, like a wife at home couldn't have a job. You would be 100% all about the children and the husband. But in this time, you're working. You can't do those things. So how do you learn to prioritize what's important to you and consume content from people who have a life you want? Like, as a woman, I'm not going to go and watch advice from men who say you should wake up at 5 a.m. and you should go for a marathon run and you should do all these things when I have children. Like his advice is completely irrelevant to the life I have or want. Even though it's good, like life advice, like, yeah, I could be successful if I'm doing these things. It's not applicable. So I think when people look at Andrew Tate doesn't even live in the US. Like, consider the source. Sorry.
I think the tough part, though, I think, for what I'm seeing with this is like, you're totally right. Like, look at the content you're consuming, you know, what are they saying, that sort of thing. However, you know, the algorithms have gotten very good at, as soon as you know, like something, sending you completely down that rabbit hole. And you just keep going, consuming the same content. So, like, reaching those people, like a lot of people that listen to this podcast, but yeah, totally, I'm with you. But like, reaching people who are on that side, and all the content they see is the Andrew Tate stuff, breaking through their algorithm.
That becomes literacy. Like, a large portion of those people who are consuming certain types of content are not literate. So they have like a 6th grade reading level or lower. They don't know how to take information and understand. And that's why I said we have to bring back old tactics, because these conversations we're having, they can't comprehend it. And I don't mean that like in a judgy way, in a mean way. They're gutting education systems and leaving these people intentionally illiterate so that they can't question the source or understand what a source is. So the only thing we can dumb it down further and say, like, consider the lifestyle that these people have, and do you want their life?
But in their instance, though, they were looking at Andrew Tate and they're like, yes, that's what I want, so I will listen to him. And that makes sense. I mean, it's flawed, tragically, but, you know, for them, they're like, yeah, no, Andrew Tate, cars, money, women, yeah, let's go.
We were briefly talking about this line of thought before we started recording in the politics rant. Not to go down the politics, but we were saying that one of the main reasons Trump won was because it was simple and dumbed down.
You want simple. Like, if you want to get a message across people, short form, like your TikToks and whatnot, make something and keep repeating it over and over. And so, like, reaching that type of person is something I'm still just sitting here, like, thinking, like, oh, man, how do you, like, reach that person, man? That's tough. Like, I guess, what you said, yeah, just, seeds make fun of them and, like, hopefully.
And also, like, seeds, like planting seeds of, like, asking questions, asking them questions. You can ask them leading questions. Sometimes I get them in my comments and I'm like, okay, think this further through. Like, think this down the road. But then it becomes, like, teaching. And
because anytime you meet someone head on, just like, you're stupid, you're wrong, you're rarely going to get like any sort of like good interaction from, like, you're not going to change their mind telling them they're stupid and wrong for the most part, right? It makes people feel bad.
I think you have a scale of like being able to judge if you're having a conversation with the level of like bigot they are. Like, you're not going to convince someone who's extremely racist to flip their views. Like, that's not a conversation I need to have with you. We're not going to sit down and negotiate or have a conversation about race because you're all the way over here. But somebody who's discussing maybe like intersectionality and like not understanding how race affects people differently, that's a conversation we can have where they're not all the way over here. Like, this is a pipeline. And you can intersect people in the pipeline, but once they're like all the way over here, it's a lot harder too. Because then it's
something that we kind of talked about with Adam Wright, where he was saying that you can't take people from negative 100 to 100. You have to get to zero first.
But for the people at a negative 100, I'm not sure you can even bring them there. So, like, for me, like, not talking like either politics or this or whatever else, like, when I talk to people who ask a question about like whatever food, exercise, it doesn't matter. Like, a lot of times I can just be like, okay, you've completely fell down this like other side. There's just nothing I can do. You think everything is toxic poison and you're gonna just eat sticks of raw butter of butter all day. That's dope. But like, then I see comments from other people. They're like, I'm not really sure about this. Like, is this like, I don't know, what about this and that? I'm like, okay, yeah, I can converse with you a little bit. I can try, and I like the leading questions that you said. Like, what do you think about this? like, oh man, there was a great one. So Simon Hill, like Simon Hill's he does another podcast. He's great. Does a lot of things on nutrition. He'd had a debate with another guy, the guy you've covered videos of his before. He's the guy gynecologist or whatever, like who does like stuff on nutrition. What is he? He's like the other guy, like white hair. He's a doctor of like something. I don't even know exactly what it is, but it has nothing to do with nutrition, but he's fully gone into that. And Simon Hill asked him, like, what's like the highest level of like scientific evidence that you have? Like, what is the top of like, this is concrete evidence? He's like, what my grandmother said or what my grandmother ate was like his answer. And I was just like, oh, so you cannot convert, like there's no point in talking with someone that just like, oh, the best evidence I have is, my ancestors or what my grandmother ate. Like give up. You're done. There's no point. So I think bringing it back to this, when you see those like people who are fully red pilled, you kind of just have to say, okay, we cut our losses.
Talking about this on the Twitch live stream last night, it's the genetic fallacy where something is correct simply because a previous ancestor, your parents, your grandparents, somebody told you it is.
Right. And so like I think with that, you just kind of have to give up and like, TikTok's a good place. We got younger people and we just try and be as good of a role model as we can and try and show them that you don't have to be miserable and only show your emotions through anger. And also, I kind of like to bully them.
Understanding like there's like a social hierarchy in our system, like just inherently Canada, the US, it's like men, women, race comes in there, socioeconomic status, changes where you are in this hierarchy. And I think that the more that white men are willing to have this conversation and also call people out in moments where they see these things happening is how we start to shift that. Because if the people at the top of the hierarchy are not willing to acknowledge that there's a hierarchy or that they benefit in some capacity, and all those things, those just get ignored. That's how it continues to perpetuate, because the people who have privilege don't want to acknowledge they have privilege. But if the people who have privilege, like I've had men come in my comment sections before and be like, so you want men to do all the work? And I'm like, I think the conversation we're having, you also have to understand that like, I'm not viewed as a human being by some people, like for being a woman. So me having the conversation with other men and saying, hey, you should view women as equals. Women are people. They view me as like a malfunctioning toaster. I'm saying the wrong things. I'm doing the wrong things. So it requires other men that they see as people to have these conversations. It's white men holding Mike Van Wyck accountable, not just, women saying men hitting each other. I just look like a hysterical woman. Other white men saying, why the fuck are you putting hands on a man over a TikTok? You child, you toddler, holds more weight. And that's why, like, you saw so many white men coming to Mike's defense because they're trying to justify
but like there was,
that.
I think as a whole, like most of the community, most of the gym community was behind Jeff Nippard because, like you assault someone in general, at least nowadays, like I think most people go, okay, attacking someone physically is wrong over words, but you'll always have like the very extremes.
And unfortunately, you didn't get in on the collab video, Liam. But
I was very busy around that time.
Yeah,
it was Dr. Kiltz. He's a fertility doctor.
Oh, Kiltz, Robert Kiltz. Yes.
Yeah.
That guy. Oh God.
Yeah, he did a whole debate, like 3 hours he spent with him. I'm like, fucking props to you, bro. I would not make it. I'd faint. There's no way. But I think I totally agree with you. You need people, you need other people, around you to be like, yeah, no, that's an absolute dick move. We need to make fun of him a little bit, and we hope for the best in the future. And like, it's tough to like undo.
At the very least, you need
to
find some way to make them second guess what they're thinking. Sometimes that's making fun of them and them being like, "Oh, I'm being made fun of."
Right, to see the repercussions for their actions. Is that like the best way, just to show them that? Or it's a combination of showing them repercussions for their actions, but also being like, you're not going to get anything out of, like, you're not going to get what you think you're going to get.
You're not going to get laid.
You're not going to get jacked and then laid immediately after. It's not like you go to the gym and you walk out and you get 20 numbers just handed to you. That's not how it works.
No, unless they're guys' numbers that are like hitting you up for training or something. Training. Air quotes.
But I mean, he did get kicked out of that gym, which made me very happy because I feel like that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
If you assault someone, you should at least have your gym membership taken away as like a fucking bare minimum.
It's hard though, because HD, like Pure Muscle, the gym, like benefits a lot from Big Mike being there, but I think they benefit more from like Jeff and the whole, because like even Quentin, the bodybuilder, he came out and like I think Mike's rubbed people the wrong way in that gym for so long and nobody could say anything, and he finally did something.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure you see a lot of behind the scenes like shit, like, you know, that's going on.
Yeah. That gym has a reputation.
Yeah. It's interesting because we don't see that side of it. Anything else from that side of the other side that you want to mention or anything like that? I'll give you the floor.
No, I think like if you're a woman, just don't date any of the men that work out at Pure Muscle. Like just stay away from them.
He's awesome.
Yeah, they all have a reputation. So I never followed Jeff on social media because anytime I see someone working out at that gym, I just kind of assume that I should run the other way.
Right.
Yeah, but no, I think that's about it.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a great gym though. If you ever get to go,
the equipment though, top tier. Like it's great.
It's fantastic.
If you can get past the misogyny and all of that, like absolutely fantastic.
Just wear a mask so that the women don't know who you are.
Yeah.
You can come out of there safely. You won't get put on any blacklists.
Yeah,
I do wear a big Mike vet mask.
I do like, I think in general, like you're seeing some of the stuff from like the Joey Swoles and whatnot, where they're trying to get this message that like the gym is for everyone and you shouldn't, you know, you don't be, you know, is it perfect? Maybe not, but like, you know, it's not a place for bullies, anybody, any age, any gender, any whatever. Like, I think just trying to get that message out more, because I constantly see people in comment sections of like those videos be like, I stopped going to the gym because of this, because of, you know, these things I've seen.
But have you spent any time in Joey's comment sections? It's also like a congregation of red pill incel men.
There's going to be that, like, there's going to be that in any gym, anything that has to do with the gym. I think there's going to be some of that. Like anything that gets big enough, I guess I should say, there's going to be some of that. And I mean, I do like that. I was just saying, I do like the message of trying to, you know, tell people that, you know, there's no place for bullies. The gym is for everyone. I at least like that.
I think I would have more respect for Joey Swoll as a content creator if he was able to address the fact that his comments are so much worse than what he is making videos about. Like, I understand there's issues around people filming in a gym setting and being disrespectful, but his comment sections are some of the most toxic comment sections you can come across. And most women like don't want to identify with Joey Swoll's community because he never addresses anything that's said in his comments. Like, if you're going to be like that white knight who's addressing bad behavior, you should also either monitor your comment sections or address some of the worst comments that are in those sections. Because as a woman,
think he could address some of those. Yeah.
Well, like as a woman who works out, a personal trainer, when I look at those comments, I would not want to be part of the gym community based off of what the men in those comments say about women. Like, they're just really horrible towards women, especially if it's a video about a woman. It gets really, really toxic and downright like dangerous to some of the stuff that they say.
Honestly, not the first time I've heard that. I don't really watch Joey's stuff just because I don't really need to. I know what it's gonna be.
Generally,
it becomes like a dog pile on the woman. So say she posts like I want to say like does the sentence adequately address the crime?
Right.
Like setting your camera up in a gym and recording somebody and posting on the internet, probably not like the best thing you can do, and it can be toxic as well. But the response from angry incel men towards those women have had them like doxxed, had their accounts taken down. Like, they're attacking the women's bodies. They're attacking. And like, that's the thing is like, Joey's trying to do this positive thing, but failing to acknowledge how toxic it can be when he addresses something that's like this big becomes this big, you know? And the response that women get from those videos is not equal to the bad thing they're doing.
Especially doxing someone.
Yeah, like people have had to take down their entire social media presence if Joey puts up a video that they've posted on social media.
Right. You know, I've definitely seen that where they take it down. I've seen Joey go after both men and women. Like I've watched a lot of his videos, and he does go after both, or he does talk about both. But I know the reaction to it, but what is the alternative? Just to not talk about it though? Cause that's, I think we need to be
selective on the severity of the video that the woman, the person is making. One, I get that's your stick on social media, but then also addressing the way that men are speaking about women or to women in his comment sections is another way that he can address incel red pill culture and not allow it to just continue and be a norm. He could also say, this is negative, this is toxic, this is abusive, I don't accept this type of conversation.
Right. Here. So what this person did was wrong, but also this reaction is over the line and we need to address it. I could see that.
I want to give a shout out to Dan McClellan here. He does religious content, not fitness.
Oh, yeah.
But every single one of his videos, he opens with, do not go after this creator.
Right.
He makes sure that people aren't harassing and stuff like that.
I will say, even with that, I think that's a good example though, because I've seen this where his caption is always the same: do not harass this creator, do not go to their comments, do not, and people still do it. People still do it even after doing that. So people are going to be people, no matter what. So it's how do you stop that?
You stop that by making the threat of what Joey does to people who do video recordings just as great for comments like that.
That is a good response. If somebody's being a dick in comments, you should be calling out the comment.
I could see more content based around this comment says this, and this is far over the line. This is not
we
cool.
Don't tolerate in this, and that's also again how you address misogyny in the gym community to the younger audience.
I could see that.
Somebody setting up a camera shouldn't be that shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't be, shaming people with a camera. But
we also shouldn't send them death threats because of it, that sort of thing.
And you should also have consequences for saying things the same way that people who post a video should have consequences for doing that.
Yeah. Right. Agreed on that.
See that. Definitely see that.
Yeah.
But moral of the story though, gym community, I think it still is quite positive, and I know, speaking as a white man, I get less blowback from things, but still some of the nicest people I've ever met have been
it's definitely the most polarized community. You have extremely nice people, and you have assholes.
You definitely have the assholes for sure, but I tell you, some of the nicest people, man. In the gym, they're just super. They're just so nice, and I want more. I want to see more people like that.
I do too, but I think
we all do.
Yeah, it's kind of why I took a step back, because again, it becomes this chicken egg conversation, and also just the experience from with men is so different. Men can go into a gym in a stringer and their underwear and take photos, and they're not getting called a slut for it. So
yeah,
it's the experience is going to be different depending on.
Right, of course.
Yeah, of course, because it's still a bit of a boys' club.
Again, me.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of gyms end up, well, not a lot, but there's a fair amount of gyms that end up making a women's only section.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know if that does anything. It doesn't seem like it solves a problem at all.
No, I don't think it's a solution. I think it's a Band-Aid.
I think it's
anything.
Have you guys ever seen a women's only section?
I have not.
I have.
I live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I would say out of all of the women's fitness facilities I've been to or seen, there has been 2 with barbells. The weights don't go past 40 or 50 pounds. Even there's
they're usually the colorful ones, and that's it, the lighter ones.
And mostly cardio machines. And if you're going to go use a weight machine, it doesn't have the weight, it has the numbers.
So it was a women's section designed by a man.
Yes.
Okay. And it's so obvious and right there, the women are going, I just don't feel like it really even is a Band-Aid on it. It just, I don't know if it makes it worse, but like it doesn't make it any better.
I think there's like the group of women that I see love it the most is definitely like Muslim women who dress.
Yeah.
Those people, because a lot in their culture, like I don't even think that they're really supposed to work out around men. So it gives them like a space.
That's fair.
That's fair.
We like, as a woman, I went to a gym the other day and I was like, oh, maybe I'll just sign up at a women's only gym. For the entire gym, like the size of a normal Good Life, they have one barbell. I'm like, this entire facility has one barbell. If you got rid of one cardio machine, you'd have two barbells. Like, you know, like you guys prioritize those things. Yeah. And then what's the point of paying a membership, really?
Right. Man. Yeah.
Which is why, like, I don't mean to be a Deborah Downer, because sometimes I feel like when I talk about the fitness community, it can be like, oh, well, there's this issue and this issue and
everything
this issue.
Everything is bad. It's all just cut it loose.
But then, like, as somebody who's like in fitness, I'm like, could it not just be like a little bit better? Could we just like address some of these things, please? Like, can we get dumbbells? That would be nice. Because I've been in some gyms, women's only gyms, that had like 2 Stairmasters, an elliptical, the machines with pins that don't have weights on them, and 2 kettlebells. And that was the entirety of their women's area. Jeez. And you're like, what in the hell am I supposed to do with this? And the kettlebells were like 10 pounds.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So and like that's a comment I get is you should, if you're unhappy with men's gyms, you should just go to a women's only gym. And I'm like, I would, but
right. And then you just have to make your own gym and you got a fucking home gym. But like it's a combination of trying to help women feel more comfortable, but also going after the dicks at the gym that, you know, that cause a lot of the issues. So yeah, I think yes, well, basically to sum up, bully the bullies, make fun of the mics, right? Like fucking ostracize them as much as possible. Try and reach the younger generation and teach the younger males that like, hey, it's cool. If you're at a funeral, you can cry. You don't have to man up and not cry. It's fine. You can show emotions. In fact, you probably should to your friends,
yes, really
to females, males. It's fine. We're humans, all right. If you bottle that shit up, it'll fucking kill you. And then also at the same time, trying to reach women and say like, okay, we're not all assholes. Yeah, some of us are, but like we're trying. We're doing what we can here. And so you know, let's lend a small olive branch if possible.
Yeah, I said this on Alex's podcast. Crying doesn't make you weaker. It doesn't make you stronger. It just makes you human.
Unless you're Mike, and then it makes you below a human. So then you have to throw punch someone instead. Not
to be confused with little Mike Pridgen, who does cry a lot.
Yeah, Mike Van.
We love Mike. We love little Mike, not big Mike.
Little Mike.
Everyone's getting the shout out in this podcast.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you wanted to rant about?
I think that's it. I think I have reached my quota of bitching today.
I don't think I've ever reached my quota, but I've come. I work as hard as I can at it. I can bitch as much as I constantly.
You're gonna get off the podcast. You're just gonna.
I need to bitch a little bit more.
Well, where can people find you when they are ready for some more listening to you rant about all these people?
So every platform is just my first and last name. Sierra Audette, Sierra. And TikTok is more the rants. Instagram is more the fitness.
That's kind of like true of just both of those platforms.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Hey, wasn't that a great time listening to the podcast? You were just, I'm assuming you were just listening to in moderation. So if you go ahead and hit the 5-star button, is that a thing? The like button?
That's a thing. Yeah.
The like button
5
on YouTube.
stars.
If you're on YouTube, hit the like button, not the dislike button. That's a bad button. The bad like button. Bad
Don't touch.
Hit all the other buttons. The share. You can go check out
all those things.
Subscribe. Go check out our Patreon. Yeah. We do have a Patreon. It's free to join if you want, or you could give us some money. That'd be really cool, like $1 or $2. It doesn't matter. Whatever you have.
That's where you'll find all the news for this.
We're super appreciative. You can find all sorts of other stuff there. We do giveaways. I think sometimes. All that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, peace.